King of the National Movement 1870s to 1947. The Emerge of Nationalism. What is this country of India and for whom it is meant? This was a crucial question among Indians. The answer that gradually emerged was India was the people of India, all the people irrespective of class, color, caste, creed, language or gender, and the country, its resources and systems were meant for all of them. With this answer came the awareness that the British were exercising control over the resources of India and the lives of its people, and until this control was ended, India would not be for all Indians. This consequence began to be clearly stated by the political associations formed after 1850. Especially those that came into being in the 1870s and 1880s. Most of these were led by English educated professionals such as lawyers. The more important ones were the Pune Sarvajanik Sabha, the Indian Association, the Madras Mahajan Sabha, the Bombay Presidency Association, and of course the Indian National Congress. Not the name Pune Sarvajanik Sabha. The literal meaning of Sarvajanik is of or for all the people. Sarva, all, plus Janik is equal to of the people. So, Pune Sarvajanik Sabha means for all the people. Through many of these associations functioned in specific part of the country, their goals were stated as the goals of all the people of India, not those one of any one religion, region, community or class. They worked with the idea that people should be sovereign, a modern consequence and a key feature of nationalism. In other words, they believed that Indian people should be empowered to take decisions regarding their affairs. So they believed that Indian people should be empowered and sovereign. The dissatisfaction with British rule intensified in the 1870s and 1880s. The Arms Act passed in 1878 disallowing Indians from possessing arms. In the same year, the Vernacular Press Act was also enacted in an effort to silence those who were critical of the government. In 1883, there was a furore over the attempt by the government to introduce the Illiterate Bill. 1883 Illiterate Bill. The bill provided for the trial of British or European persons by the Indians and sought equality between the British and the Indian judges in the country. But when white opposition forced the government to withdraw the bill, Indians were annulled. They even highlighted the racial attitudes of the British in India. So the Arms Act was passed in 1878. Vernacular Press Act in the same year 1878, then 1883 Illiterate Bill. A need for an all-Indian association of educated Indians has been felt since 1880, but the Illiterate Bill controversially depressed this desire. The Indian National Congress was established when 72 delegates from all the country met up in Bombay in December 1885. Bombay. The early leadership, Dadabhai Naoroji, Firoz Mehta, Badruddin Taibji, W.C. Banerjee, Surendranath Banerjee, Ramesh Chandra Dutt, Subramania Iyer, among others, was largely from Bombay and Calcutta. Naoroji, a businessman and a publisher, settled in London, and for a long time member of the British Parliament, guided the younger nationalists. A retired British officer, A.O. Hem, also played a part in bringing Indians from the various regions together. The nation in the making. It has often been said that the Congress in the first 20 years was moderate in its objectives and methods. During this period, it demanded a great voice for Indian in the government and in administration. It wanted the legislative councils to be made more respective, give more power, and introduce in provinces where none existed. It demanded that Indians be placed in high positions in the country. For this purpose, it's called the civil service examination to be held in India as well, not only in London. Civil service in India. The demand for nationalists of the administration was part of a movement against racism. Since most important jobs at the times were monopolized by white officials, and the British generally assumed that Indian could not be given position of responsibility. Since British officers were sending a major part of their large salary home, Indianization, it was hoped, would also reduce the drain of wealth to England. Other demands including separation of the judiciary from the executive, the repeal of the Arm Act, and the freedom of speech and expression. Other demands were separation of the judiciary from the executive, the repeal of Arm Act, and the freedom of speech and expression. The early Congress also raised a number of economic issues. It declared that British rule had led to poverty and famines. Increase in the land revenue had embarrassed peasants and zamindars, and export of grains to Europe had created food shortage. The Congress demanded a reduction of revenue, cut in military expenditure, and more funds for irrigation. It passed many resolutions on salt tax, treatment of Indian laborer abroad, and the suffering of forest dwellers caused by an interfering forest administration. All this show that despite being a body of the educated elite, the Congress did not talk only on behalf of professional groups, semindars, or industrialized. The moderate leaders wanted to develop public aware about the unjust nature of British rule. They published newspapers, wrote articles, and showed how British rule was led to the economic ruin of the country. The moderate leaders. They criticized British rule in their speeches and sent respected representatives to different parts of the country to mobilize public opinion. They felt that the British had respect for the ideal of freedom and justice, and so they would accept the just demand of Indians. What was necessary, therefore, was to express these demands and make the government aware of the feelings of Indians. Freedom is our birthright. By the 1890s, many Indians began to raise questions about the political style of the Congress. In Bengal, Maharashtra, and Punjab, leaders such as Bipin Chandra Pal, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and Lala Lajpat Rai were beginning to explore more radical objectives and methods. They critical the moderates for their politics of pariahs and embraced the importance of self-reliance and constructive work. They argued that people must rely on their own strength, not on the good intention of the government. People must fight for Swaraj. Tilak raised the slogan, "Freedom is my birthright and I shall have it." Balagangadhar Tilak, "Freedom is my birthright and I shall have it." In 1905, Viceroy Curzon partitionized Bengal. In 1905, Viceroy Curzon partitionized Bengal. At that time, Bengal was the biggest province of British India and included Bihar and parts of Orissa. 1905, Viceroy Curzon partitioned Bengal. The British argued for dividing Bengal for reasons of administrative convenience. But what did administrative convenience mean? Whose convenience did this represent? Clearly, it was closely tied to the interest of British officials and businessmen. Even so, instead of removing the non-Bengali areas from the provinces, the government separated East Bengal and merged it with Assam. Perhaps the main British motives were to curtail the influence of Bengali politicians and to split the Bengali people. The partition of the Bengal infuriated people all over India. All sections of the Congress, the moderates and the radical, as they may be called, opposed it. Large public meetings and demonstrations were organized, and novel methods of mass protest developed. The struggle that unfolds came to be known as the Swatishi Movement. Known as the Swatishi Movement, strongest in Bengal, but with else too. In Dalit Andhra, for instance, it was known as the Vande Mataram movement. In Dalit Andhra, it was known as the Vande Mataram movement. Thank you.